What's up everybody, Barrett here, back again with Spec of Tech. Welcome to the channel. So will the reaction to this virus be beneficial for home audio and home theater? Let's talk about it. So first let me start by saying my heart does go out to all those that have been negatively affected by the virus. For those of you that may have lost family members to the virus, I'm definitely not trying to take away from those of you that have suffered from the virus. My heart also goes out to those that may have lost their jobs, among other things, due to the reaction or due to the virus. So please don't take this video the wrong way, that I'm looking at the virus as a good thing. That's not what I'm doing here. So also let me say that these are my thoughts and my opinions in this video. They may not be shared by everybody. If you are new here, please do subscribe and tick the little bell icon so you can be notified when my next video drops. If you find that this content does help you out or is interesting to you, please do me a huge favor and hit the like button. It really does help out the channel. Alright guys, without further ado, let's get into the video after the intro. Welcome back guys. Before we get into the video, I just want to bring up the movie of the week. This is something that I do for all of my videos that are home theater related. So all I do is I post a 4K movie that is $20 or under down in the description. There's a link there, so if you are interested in the movie of the week, go ahead and check the description and click on the link down there. First, let me say again that the virus is not a good thing for anybody or anything. I'm not trying to discuss the virus itself here. I simply want to discuss the government's and the people's reaction to the virus and how it may benefit home audio and home theater. So the main aspect that I believe may help home audio and home theater is the self-isolation or the self-quarantining that people are doing during this trying time. So with people self-isolating and self-quarantining, I mean, let's look at this realistically. They're going to get bored. There's only so many home projects and board games that a person can play before they get bored of it. So a lot more people are going to turn to movies and gaming as entertainment in their home. So obviously there's going to be a lot of people that'll go back to their old way of doing things or their old habits and their old ways of entertainment, but there will also be those that will develop new habits of watching more movies and playing more video games for entertainment. And these are the people that we're going to discuss. I mean, they're the ones that are naturally going to progress into wanting bigger and better screens and bigger and better sound. Obviously not all of them will, but a lot of them. So for example, now that 1080p or 720p television that they have is going to be far less appealing now that they're using it more often. Those television speakers aren't going to offer much for the immersion when watching television or playing games as well. And these are things that people are going to notice more as they're using their television more. I mean, those speakers aren't going to tell you when an enemy is behind you in a video game, or they're not going to offer that same surround sound immersion for a movie. But I think you get the point, so let's move on. It's going to push people towards buying bigger, higher resolution televisions or projectors. And some of them may jump right into getting a full-on surround sound home theater system right away, but a lot of them won't. Some of them will jump into maybe a home theater in a box type setup, or a soundbar setup, or soundbar plus subwoofer setup. And there will also be some that just won't upgrade at all. They'll be happy with what they have. And this is all true. But those that did start with a home theater in a box setup or a soundbar slash soundbar and subwoofer setup, a lot of them will fall into the natural progression that a lot of us have fallen victim to, and that is upgrade-itis. And slowly but surely, for a lot of them, it'll turn into a new hobby, being home audio and home theater. So to conclude this thought, self-isolation and self-quarantining will essentially force more people into the home audio and home theater hobby, which is all around good for the home audio and home theater industry. The second thing to think about is all the theaters being shut down. And again, my heart goes out to all those that may have lost their jobs because of this. That is definitely not something that I'm looking at as a good thing. But with the theaters being shut down, it would literally force people to watch more movies at home. If they want to see a certain movie, they have no other choice but to watch it at home. And again, this will essentially force people into the home audio and home theater hobby for all of the same reasons that I previously mentioned. It will also force them to purchase the movie through either a streaming service or as physical media, both of which again are good for the industry as a whole. And again, it will encourage those to improve their viewing experience and their listening experience by upgrading either their television or projector or their home audio. And something new that has come into fruition is straight to rental movies. So the movies that were going to be released into the theaters, now that the theaters aren't open, they have released some of them on some streaming services that are direct to rental. Now, of course, these rentals are going to cost more money. So that's obviously these companies trying to recoup some of their potential losses from the theaters being closed, but it is now an option. When I used to go to the theater or take my two sons to the theater, it was a pretty expensive endeavor. You're looking at $50, $60, and of course I'm Canadian, so that's in Canadian dollars. I'm not sure what it is in the US. Now, of course, that is including snacks as well, but the movie tickets themselves, you're looking at probably half of that. So now if you can rent a movie that would have been in theaters and now is going straight to rental for about $20 to $25, that is actually quite reasonable when you look at the cost of going to the theater. So now that that is a thing, I don't know if they're going to continue it after some of the theaters open back up or not. That's all up in the air, I guess. But some of the movies were successful in doing this, maybe not to the same extent that they would have been in the theater, but they have now proven that it is a viable option, that they can make money doing it. So it may be something that they continue in the future, which again makes it easier for those of us in the hobby or even newcomers to the hobby, that gives us the option to watch brand new movies that would be in theaters and watch them at home on our home systems. So essentially giving us yet another reason to have a home audio or home theater setup. And I, for one, am actually hoping that this is something that continues in the future, because I would much rather watch a brand new movie in my home theater simply because it does sound better than at the local movie theater, but I would like to watch those new movies when they first come out. So what about when the theaters open back up, you may ask? Unfortunately, the sad reality is some of the local theaters may not have the finances to reopen in the future when all these virus precautions subside. Realistically, again, I'm not looking at this as a good thing in particular, but a lot of them won't be able to reopen. So if there are those that had a local theater that they like to attend to watch their movies, and now that theater doesn't reopen, this just gives them another reason to want a home audio or home theater setup in their home, so they can now stay home and watch movies, as opposed to driving an extra 15, 20, or 30 minutes to another theater to watch a movie. After all, they were just forced to grow accustomed to just that, watching movies at home. So they may just continue with that. And for those people that do have their local theater reopen, they have already now grown accustomed to watching movies at home, and this may just be part of their new reality in their everyday life. So the local theater reopening may not change that for them. They may just start staying home and watching movies. For some it won't, obviously they'll start going to the theaters again, but that may not be the truth for everybody. And lastly, regarding the theaters being closed, this is going to improve the sales of streaming media as well as physical media, which may encourage companies to put a little more effort into their sales of streaming and physical media. So the last thing I would like to discuss is that there seems to be more support for newcomers than ever before. Now obviously I can't contribute all of the new Facebook groups and all of the new channels to the reaction or people's reaction to the virus, but some of them are a direct result of the virus. I believe with people having more time at home, it gives them the time to put effort into a Facebook group or into a YouTube channel. And this is nothing but a benefit to all the newcomers to the home audio and home theater hobby. Because before Facebook and before YouTube, basically if you wanted to learn home audio or home theater, you either needed to learn it all the hard way yourself, or you had to know somebody that knew it fairly well and you could ask questions to, or you had to trust the advice of your local audio shop. But now there is so much more support for newbies than ever before. There are more Facebook groups opening on a regular basis. There are also more YouTube channels opening on a regular basis that target or are focused on home audio and home theater. So this again is a huge benefit to the industry in general, or as a whole. So there's definitely a lot of resources there for newcomers coming to the hobby that they can go and ask questions, get great suggestions, and there's just a lot of information in general for them to help get started into the home audio and home theater world. That being said, you do need to be careful with toxic people within the hobby, within the groups as well. There are some of those that strictly look for the negative. They strictly look to point out the negative. It's as if they're looking for validation in what they can tell you you're doing wrong, and that somehow validates them that they've done it better than you, I guess. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the psyche of these people, but there is some toxic people that make it very discouraging for newcomers to come into the hobby. But there are also plenty of those that are actually trying to help you. They may come off as offensive, but they are truly trying to help. You just have to be careful of those that are just truly toxic. They don't really have anything positive to say. They're not offering any support. They're simply tearing down what you have done and just pointing out all the negative without offering you any solutions on how you can make it better or offering you any information explaining why it is wrong what you've done. So my advice to the newcomers is just be careful of those toxic people. Just don't let the toxic people discourage you from getting into the hobby. They are definitely few and far between. There's far more that like to help than there are those that like to tear down. So just look for the Facebook groups that are generally positive and generally trying to help, and also look for some great YouTube channels that you can follow. So some of the great channels that you should consider subscribing to if you are a newcomer, or even if you're not a newcomer and you just want to learn more about the hobby, I would suggest Youthman, Joe and Tell, Technodad, Home Theater Gurus, JDM World, and I myself am trying to grow my content into something that's going to benefit you guys, and hopefully maybe one day I will be at the level of some of the other channels that I just previously mentioned. But I have a long way to go. One of my goals when I started my Facebook groups as well as my YouTube channel was to bring more to the hobby, basically trying to do my part for the industry and help grow it if I can, because I do believe this is a very rewarding and interesting hobby to get into. It may seem a little bit intimidating at first, but once you get into it and you just follow that slow progression, you'll learn that it's not as complicated as you think. To sum up the whole video, with more people self-isolating and self-quarantining, it's going to translate into more interest into the home audio and home theater world, simply because they're watching more movies, they're playing more games, and it's just going to generate interest. And with there being more interest in home audio and home theater, naturally some of them are going to fall down the rabbit hole, like so many of us have, into upgrading and hobbyism. So that's my take on it, guys. I hope you enjoyed my insight. If you did find this video interesting and you do like it, please do hit that like button. It really does help out my channel. It does me a huge favor. I appreciate every single like and every single subscriber that I get. So if you are new here, please do subscribe and tick the little bell icon so you can be notified when my next video drops. So please do stay healthy, and as always, stay techie.